His first day as a navvy, he was home by 3 o'clock. His hands all cut and bloody, his face pale with the shock. He told me he had shifted 6 tons of earth that day, only earned 2 shillings of the 5 that was his pay. Oh, to be a navvy, be a hard and drinking man. Oh, to be a navvy, earn the best pay that he can. Oh, to be a navvy, work the Settle Carlisle line. Oh, to be a navvy, come the rain, the hail or shine.
You know, the people in the whole of this were just expendable. Get the work done, get the line built, get the profits in. Yeah.
And they're all there, they'll be all there. Hundreds of them buried in the bog.
Yeah. It's hard to think just looking at that scene today, isn't it? That, you know, not that long ago, 100 and something years, there'd be 2,000 navvies and their wives and kids and
130, 40 years.
This poor Irish lad, he's often heard to state.
When you think about these hundreds of people that are buried on the moss out there, Batty Moss, and for every mile of the line, all the way down the line, not just here, what really inspired you? Was it mostly the women, or was it the actual trials and tribulations of the navvies themselves, or was it all of that, and where did it all come from?
Well, I think it was a combination of all sorts, really. I mean, there was stories that sort of shone out like little gems, really. It was about the men and women who built the Settle Carlisle Railway, because, well, the whole Alice White song is about, you know, how
a woman
when Dandy Jack died, how she had to take another man, because who was going to look after her and her kids?
Nobody.
It would take another man or starve.
Basically, you're looking at a very primeval and primitive society. And the other thing to remember, really, which is very important, and you've captured it in your songs, is that it was a work or die situation. This is the last line built entirely by hand. There were no steam navvies, as they called the machines that steam engines used to. This was built entirely by men, mile for mile for mile, and a man died for every mile of the line that was built. But those men could not have functioned without the bread being made and without the meat being cooked and without the beer being made. And women would have come and done quite a lot of that. Plus, some of the men brought the wives with them.
My name is Alice White. I'd have you all to know I left my father's farm a long time ago. My mother called me a silly lass, said I'd rue the day that I followed on the heels of the navvies. My first man, Dandy Jack, he was handsome, young and fine, and we travelled throughout England as we trudged from line to line. We lived in shanty houses, had lodges and children 3, as I worked to fill the needs of the navvies. When Dandy Jack was killed beneath a fall of stone, I wept and cursed the day that ever I was born. jumped the broom to stay with the navvies. Came, I was deserted when my children numbered 5, and I had to take another man just to keep us all alive. And now I've had so many men, they call me Alice Free. As I've lived my life away with the navvies. And now I'm getting old and grey before my time, with the work and the childbearing as we trudge from line to line. I often think of poor Dandy Jack, lying so cold in his grave. He's the only man I loved of the navvies.
Everybody's got to have a folk devil, whether it's teddy boys or whether it's bikers or whatever. The folk devil is established, and everybody, it's in the Sunday papers, and there's always
They've got to
this thing,
find
mods
somebody
and
to
rockers.
point the finger at
Yeah.
and look at them.
Yeah. So the navvies,
They're wrong uns.
the navvies in their time,
They were the wrong uns. Yeah.
they were the folk devils. And yet, like I said, a lot of them would be semi-educated men. Some of them would have been literate. So they were not just illiterate savages, but they were painted as such. But they did work incredibly hard, 12 hours, 14 hours a day, and they got paid by the yard, got paid by how much they did. But they were rebellious, riotous. They would leave at a minute's notice if they didn't like it, because they could get a job somewhere else. Remember also that this was at a time when the Church of England was going down in favour because of the big industrial cities that had built up, where they had no presence really to speak of. So Methodism took over. So the Methodists came in, and they tried teetotalers, and they tried to convert the navvies. And of course, these guys wanted to drink 14 pints when they finished work at night and eat 4 pounds of beef and potatoes because they got the job to do the next day. And then they go on the rant on the Sunday or whatever else. So they call them, and there is an expression that was used, and I can't remember who exactly said it, this despicable race of men. That was what they were known as, this despicable race of men. There were outlaws who tramped the country around, so you'd hide the children if the navvies were going past, Quick, get the kids in, hide. Or the navvies will come and get you. The kids might have been frightened to bed,
There's a couple of songs, actually, that refer to the binges and on the CD. Going on a randy was actually the phrase they used, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To go on a drinking binge that would last sometimes several days.
Or rant, it's called as well, up in
Going on a
Northumberland,
rant.
the Collier's Rant. And it was, they just went, and I suppose what they did was drank to unconsciousness.
He's going on a randy till all his money's lost. He's going on a randy, doesn't care about the cost. He's going on a randy, drink all that he can take. He's going on a randy, a thirst he has to slake. End of shift on payday, he goes to collect his due. With anticipation he waits standing in the queue. He's avoided the missus who would take his pay away. What's the use in saving, only living for the day? His mates are all a-grinning, a randy they have planned. Women, whiskey, ale, a fight, all at their command. Mary Ann Lee will dance tonight at the Old Hill Inn. With whistles and shouts they make their way, the randy to begin. He's going on a randy till all his money's lost. He's going on a randy, doesn't care about the cost. He's going on a randy, drink all that he can take. He's going on a randy, a thirst he has to slake. A rival gang has turned up from further up the line. They're squaring up for a fight, they're making all the signs. Insults are a-flying around, ale it has been spilt. And navvy roars with laughter until his mouth is filled. Women start a-shrieking, one jumps upon his back. He's going round in circles as he fends off this attack. His mate comes to the rescue, but she downs him with a kick. She's seen enough of navvy fights to know all of the tricks. He's going on a randy till all his money's lost. He's going on a randy, doesn't care about the cost. He's going on a randy, drink all that he can take. He's going on a randy, a thirst he has to slay. Fight moves outside the inn, they roll upon the ground. They all freeze in horror when they hear a terrible sound. His wife has caught up with him, ain't what you call petite. With one hand on the scruff of his neck, the other just a beat. The navvies see what's happening, they double up with glee. They watch in fascination as he does his best to flee. The fight is now forgotten, they shake hands, go back inside, still laughing at the navvy whose wife just tanned his hide. He's going on a randy till all his money's lost. He's going on a randy, doesn't care about the cost. He's going on a randy, drink all that he can take. He's going on a randy, a thirst he has to slake. He's going on a randy till all his money's lost. He's going on a randy, doesn't care about the cost. He's going on a randy, drink all that he can take. He's going on a randy, a thirst he has to slake.
And so the Settle Carlisle was built entirely by a despicable race of men. They came and they vanished. When it was all over, you wouldn't have seen much there. The brickworks went.
After this was finished, a lot of them went off. Was it to Canada or America to
There
work on the railways there?
Yeah, they went wherever there was work. And they walked from gig to gig, you know. There's no way of, hitching a ride or getting on the train because they were building the line. So they would walk, and they'd walk from Liverpool here. Some of the Irish navvies would dock in Liverpool and then walk for 5 days to get here.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
And then they would start working. And then when the job finished, that's it, you go. And remember these men, there was nobody keeping a tally of who was working where. So if an explosion happened in the tunnel and 14 men got blown apart, they might remember 3 of them. What was he called? Oh, he was Wheelbarrow Jack and he was Banjo Tommy. And that's your navvy name. Nobody knew what your real name was.
Yeah.
And if you died, that was it. You just shallow grave and in you went. But in terms of people blowing their arms and legs off in the tunnel,
There was nothing.
no. Batty Moor, no, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Bleemore, bang, that's another few fellas gone. You know, go and pick the bits up and throw them in the bog.
Four good men we lost today, digging out a ventilation shaft. It took hours before they got to them. They saw the bodies as they passed. The women are all away, the men's in shock they stare. What you might read in the local press ain't the truth of what happened there. I work today, every day, to shift the tons of dirt, excavating the tunnel we crawl deep within the earth. I work today.
I was going to say it'll be a lot more in control than mine, so don't worry about it.
Which way do you want us looking, Graham?
Anywhere but at me.
So it's all your fault, you know, all this. Because before this, I lived 2 miles from the Settle Carlisle Railway. And yeah, I'd travelled on it, but I didn't know anything about it. And then you introduced me to that song by Alan Bell called
The Alice White song.
Alice White, yeah.
Great song.
And then that sparked my interest, and I went off and did a bit of research and wrote in the springtime, which is
Yeah.
about more of what happened to Alice White. I mean, you were talking before about Banjo Jack,
Yeah.
and there was actually a guy called Sly-Eyed Joe who used to come to bring his wares here on a Saturday for the Saturday market at Batty Green. And I just imagine this Sly-Eyed Joe hawking his wares, and you know, the sort of getting to the lives of the characters, really, but also slipping into the songs, you know, true life stories, true people that existed.
The people who did massive things like this, you know, they're just not recorded. So when you get those little bits of stories and you use your imagination and sympathy and empathy, I think that's great, because what you're doing is using the facts, using the truth, and taking it, not embroidering it, but taking it and in a way, making it more real, making it more pertinent.
Well, it's sort of like a living epitaph to some of these people. And I wanted to tell their stories. I wanted to sort of put their stories out there more than just these little hidden pieces. Because there was lots and lots, obviously, about the line and, you know, how many miles it was and what it took to build it. But there was only, you know, bits and pieces about the actual people. So I wanted to sort of pick them out and put them into, give them an epitaph, really. That's what I think, what I tried to do in the songs. I think the thing with researching this, and particularly the lives rather than the actual building of the line, there is so much still to be unearthed.
Because you can talk to any steam buff, any railway buff in the country, and they'll tell you how many sleepers, how many tons of steel went into making the rails, how many bricks went into the tunnels. But there were 2,000 people living just over there, at least 2,000. Some respected authorities say 3,000.
I think the heritage, you know, side of it is so important, that these stories live on, that our kids and grandkids and what have you, they get to hear what life was like, not just through a computer screen, that it's actually out there in stories, in songs, really.
And with our stories, we say so much. You know, from when you're a child and you're learning fairy stories about good and bad, and the struggle between good and evil, power and the powerless, and having those stories and retelling them, which is why I love folk music. And I find pop music ephemeral a lot of the time. It's Moon Spoon June, I love you, you love me. Well, actually, there's a lot more to life than that.
Yeah.
And to go into other people's stories and turn them into song and produce something, that's what I believe folk music is all about. And you've done a good job.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah.
And you played quite well as well
Well, yeah, for an old one.
for an elder.
Well, it beats
But maybe,
digging on Bothy
maybe they'll
Moss.
call you Banjo Mike now.
Oh, Mandolin
that would be
Mike,
maybe
yeah.
that would be your navvy name.
My epitaph on the grave, I can say, Mandolin Mike.
Mandolin.
Here lies the
Mike.
body of Mandolin Mike. Used to play the mandolin and ride
He
a
was.
bike.
Oh, to be a navvy, work the Settle Carlisle line. Oh, to be a navvy, come the rain, the hail or shine. Better to be a navvy wife than a widow left alone.